Hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of Chat and Games, your weekly gaming show. I'm your host for the evening, afternoon, morning, whenever it is that you're listening to this, Melvin Rodriguez, and I am joined by the always sexy voice in the business, Mr. Matthew Howard.
Hey, hey.
Hey Matt, another week, another talk about games. How you been?
I've been good. How have you been?
Been good, I've been playing a lot of Pokemon Legends Arceus. Finally beat that main story, so we're going to be chatting a little bit about that during the podcast today. And we're also going to be chatting about the weird Nintendo decisions that we see every once in a while. Specifically the closure of the 3DS and Wii U shop, just talking about conservation of games and everything like that. So I also heard that you've been playing a ton of games, Matt. Like, you are the hardest core gamer to ever exist. So we're going to be chatting about that, right?
I've been making use of that Game Pass, I'll put it that way.
Okay, there we go. See, as you should, by the way. Great value in games for you. All right, but before we get started, I would like to remind you that if you like what you hear, remember you may also like what you see. So go over to the YouTube channel, type in Chat and Games. You can see everything that we're seeing ourselves. We put up all the trailers and pictures of everything that we've been discussing. And also, if you want to hear this podcast on other devices that you're like, okay, well, I have an Apple iPhone and I can only listen on iTunes. Don't you worry, we got you covered. This podcast is available on all podcast services, including iTunes, Spotify. So if you like what you hear there, please leave us a review. It will really help us grow all the way and reach more people in the community or over the web, so we can grow the community out there. Right, Matt?
All right.
So let's start, because we obviously want to chat about a lot of games that we've been playing. Let's start by talking about this weird Nintendo decision of closing the eShop for the 3DS and the Wii U.
Yeah, well, you say it's a weird decision. I don't know if I necessarily agree that it's weird, because this was going to happen eventually. Like, that was pretty inevitable. The part where it gets kind of weird is, like, you compare this to when the Wii shop closed down. So I guess just for a bit of background, these are the online shops for Wii, Wii U, 3DS, and mainly the use was to buy old, like, classic Nintendo games, in my experience at least. They did have their own, like, smaller titles as well, but I think when people think about these shops, they mostly think about, like, buying older Nintendo titles. And when the Wii shop closed down, we already had the Wii U and the 3DS shops, and, like, the vast majority of things were already available on those, if not, like, coming soon. So it wasn't the hugest deal when the Wii shop closed down. But now, moving into, like, the Switch era, we don't really have an equivalent. Instead, they just have their online pass, which gives you a small handful of games of these, like, legacy games, and it's very unclear, like, how many there will be. There's certain consoles that just aren't supported. Like, you could buy DS GBA games, like handheld games, on Wii U, but
we're not able to do so in this particular
absolutely shop. None of that on Switch, and we don't even know if there's plans to add those later. So, that's what kind of has people up in arms. It's just kind of annoying when Nintendo is a company that, like, takes such a hard stance against emulation, but they refuse to provide an alternative for people to actually buy their games legally without jumping through so many hoops, buying from resellers. So it's not like Nintendo would even get the money if they want to, like, play some game that's not even in production anymore.
Yeah. Well, Nintendo is very protective of their IP, so when there's emulation or they find out about a very popular product out there that is using their IP without their consent, they usually bring down the lawyers and they take it down, especially even for fan-made projects that are
Yeah.
using just the IP in a different way that they think might be better. But obviously, if they don't have permission, just like any other IP holder, Nintendo would go down. But Nintendo is very
Well,
well known for doing that.
yeah, you say just like any other IP holder, but like we could actually look at some examples of companies I think handle this stuff a lot better.
Hmm.
Sega is pretty notorious for like
Yeah,
being very open to like all the Sonic fan games out there, not really going after them, and then even like hiring some of them. Although apparently, from what I've heard, the Sonic Mania team hasn't been treated the best despite their success. But that's another matter.
yeah.
But
I mean, yes.
also, I recently found out apparently like there is a big, like very extensive HD mod for Resident Evil 4, and
Yes.
it's like a lot of work put into it, very very well done, and Capcom actually like pinned the topic in Steam about it on like the official Steam forums for like Resident Evil 4. Like
There we go.
because they realize like all this really does is provide them with free advertising. Like it's not hurting them at all to keep people interested in these games.
I think it also makes the community stronger
Yeah,
because you can see the fan base and how much passion there is for a particular project when people go out of their way to use their free time to develop
yeah,
something that will really benefit the game overall, especially
and not
without
for profit because like
exactly.
they generally can't do that. And yeah, it's just such like a show of passion and devotion, and to just have that like stamped out. Like sure, you will get bad actors here and there who try to profit off someone else's
Hmm.
like
Yeah,
IP or whatever, but in
don't do
my
that, by the way.
experience, yeah, in my experience, like far and away the vast majority are just like people doing this out of love, or people doing this just to like get their feet wet in game
Hmm.
development and potentially build like a career out from that.
Yeah, a
And
lot of, especially in
I
the
think,
modding community.
yeah, and I think you do way more harm than good by just taking such a hard stance against it. Because even when you get those like bad actors, like realistically, how much damage are they going to be able to do? Like one or like a small team trying to sell like a mod for some game or something like
If
it.
anything, that will help you improve some sales because if the reason that you haven't given that game a try is because of legacy controls or maybe the way it looks, it's like, okay, this doesn't look like a new game. If it improves the quality of it, they technically have to buy your game and then get the mod on top of it.
Yeah,
You get this. So it will be a sale for your company based on a free update that a person is doing for your game.
yeah. Like I can't. I really struggle to think of any example of like these being used to adversely affect like a company's bottom line.
To play
In
devil's advocate, I
yeah,
think the only example that I can think of if a fan made project that is completely done from the scratch and is a very full scale game that doesn't require the other games to function, then it could detract people from buying the actual game because they rather play what the fan person made, one because it's free and two maybe because it's even better or it resonates with them a little bit better. That's
yeah,
the
like the
only
Metroid 2 remake, which was
yes.
is largely considered better than the official Nintendo one. Yeah.
Well, I'm mostly thinking about the Pokemon ones, the Pokemon fan made games.
Okay, fair enough.
There are more
Yeah.
hardcore. They have very different mechanics that they
At
added
the
to a very traditional Pokemon feel that I know for a
yeah.
fact that a lot of people prefer those over the mainline entries.
That said, it's not like we can point to Pokemon and say, "Oh, look, the sales are dropping because of
Mm.
these mods." Like,
Yes, I mean Pokemon. You can see it with the success of Legends Arceus and how popular
yeah,
that game is.
and even like Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl got
Mhm.
pretty like roasted across the board from what I saw, but those games still sold super well. Like they outperformed a lot of other titles, and yeah, it's just I can't conceive of a world where Pokemon is realistically being harmed by someone making a fan game.
Yeah. It's hard to see how much effect it has,
Yeah.
but at the same time, my main issue with the story, as you mentioned, is yeah, you close the shops, which is fine. Not many people have or are playing a 3DS or Wii U. I was gonna say Wii U. Not many people have a Wii U, and even if you had one, you may not be actively playing it. With the 3DS, it's a very popular handheld console, but I don't know. It's obviously the life cycle of the product is kind of just shifting towards the Switch. So
Yeah.
why keep the support? It provides a little bit of cost to you, but at the same time, you're not providing the consumer with an alternative.
Yeah.
So
That's the
any
main
retro
thing.
games that you have, you're not gonna be able to get them, even if you get the pass for Switch. It's not that you can own it on Switch. You can get the franchise to pay. You can have access to them as long as you're paying them money every month
Yeah.
to get access to the virtual console. But if you wanted to
Yeah.
get it as like, okay, no, I only want this game. I want to buy it. Let me just buy it. I don't care about the pass. Let me just have this one. You are not able to do so. That furthermore, what it irks me every single time. I know that it does make them a lot of money, and that's probably one of the reasons they do it. But is the Nintendo fan base, well, on overall people, because they grew up with these games, they have a lot of value and connection to them. And even if
Mhm.
they don't, they might want to go back to some of the previous titles because they hold up even in today's day and age.
Yeah.
And having to basically redip every single time, like, okay, you bought them on the 3DS, you
Yeah.
bought
How
them
many
on the
times have
Wii.
you had to buy Super Metroid? Yeah. Like stuff
Exactly.
like that.
Just so many times that for every single, it doesn't transfer. There is no retrofit or anything. So every single time that you want to get they provide the game on the shop, you buy it again.
Yeah, and it
And
seemed like that was turning around with the Switch because the Switch
mhm,
actually is like account based. So stuff you buy on one Switch will port over to like another Switch if you get it.
yeah,
But just, oh, coincidentally, this is also
hmm
the time that they decided to just take away your ability to purchase retro games, barring a few like the Mario collection and like
hmm
the release of the first Fire Emblem game. But even in both those examples, those were limited time deals, so they're scummy for other reasons.
yeah, and that's the thing, and that's why I call it a weird Nintendo decision. And
Yeah.
yeah, not necessarily because closing the shops is
Yeah, it's more than that. It's like all the context surrounding it is what makes
exactly.
it kind of weird and gross.
And it's unfortunate because yeah, out of the three main actors or companies in the gaming space, you always think Nintendo, Xbox, and PlayStation, just
Yeah.
for the sake of console manufacturing. Not because maybe the biggest actors out there, but out of the three of them, the ones who have the biggest legacy is Nintendo.
Yep.
So for them not to be able to show or provide their games in any way, shape, or form now, except for buying an old retro console, which is probably gonna go up in value quite a bit because obviously it's not in production anymore. To get a game that is no longer in production is not very accessible, and people maybe pay it because they grew up with them. But we're getting to a new generation of gamers, and
Yeah.
the new generation did not grow up with the SNES or the N64 or anything of the sort. So providing with more accessible things so that they could play it and
Yeah.
see where the games came from
I
would
mean, I
be
guess you
ideal.
could argue that the new system is better for people who haven't played most of the games. Like in my
Mhm.
case,
I see.
given me like a handful of retro games, it's like, okay, well, there's one here that I haven't played.
Hmm.
But maybe it actually is a better value if you're like a younger player and it's like, okay, yeah, you've never touched an SNES in your life.
Yeah.
Um, so maybe that's their thinking if I'm gonna be generous and give them the benefit of the doubt, but I don't really feel like giving them the benefit of the doubt just because the way they've handled this in the past has always kind of irked me.
No, makes sense. And honestly, it's just what I really like to see is the decisions made. Like, be a fly on the wall when these decisions are made.
Yeah.
Just to see if being this protective of your IP, if make it so scarce, is actually benefiting you in any way, shape, or form. And but if they're doing it and they have been doing it for a while, then there's obviously something to it. And they could be not consumer, because at the end of the day, they're a company and they want to get your money.
Yep.
So it's a matter of understanding how them not allowing you to give them money is actually benefiting them in the long run. Because maybe their IP is just becoming more and more important to them. Or because the more scarcity, but still people still want it, is like, okay, no, we need to... It will increase the value of it in the long run.
Right. Yeah,
okay.
Hard to say for sure, but yeah, from a consumer side,
Yeah, from a consumer
you
side,
wish they would do a bit better. Yeah.
awful. But it is what it is, and regardless of the many bad news, as Pokemon has shown it over the next little while, it could potentially just keep striving up and up. So let's talk about Pokemon Legends Arceus. Again, there were a few other pieces of news that were happening this week, but we didn't have much to say about them. This is also the week that Horizon Forbidden West came out. As you know, we usually just go and play them. And me being a very big Nintendo fan, yes, but PlayStation and Xbox overall, I wanted to play Horizon Forbidden West. The problem is I haven't finished Horizon
Zero Dawn.
Thank you. I haven't finished it. I literally started 3 times, and every single time that I started, I get to a particular area, past the main incident in the game, and I just stop. I don't know what it is. I get distracted by other games. It just doesn't draw me in again, so I never end up finishing it. But I do not want to continue and play Forbidden West without Zero Dawn, so that's why we're not going to be talking about it this week. Especially because I also made the conscious decision to not do that, because the week that you're listening to this podcast is the Elden Ring week. And honestly, if I had to choose between the two, I just want to see what the From Software open world has to offer. So I basically chose Elden Ring to start with for those reasons. But we're not here to talk about either of those two. I just wanted to address the elephant in the room. This is like, why is this the only gaming podcast that doesn't talk about Zero Dawn? Now you know. Or Forbidden West.
Forbidden West, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Pokemon Legends Arceus. Matt, when we were talking about it, when it was announced, and as it was getting progress, and as we were getting more news, you were like, okay, I need to see more before I make the decision to actually purchase this or not, because you've been very critical about Pokemon franchise overall.
I did not get Sword and Shield. I did not get Diamond and Pearl remakes.
Yeah.
But this one was intriguing. I did think it looked a bit rough in a lot of the trailers, and I really wasn't sure if it was going to be good, but then it came out and I was hearing good things about it, even from people who were also critical of like Sword and Shield and all that. So yeah, looked into it, looked and saw what the gameplay was like, and I decided I would give it a shot.
Nice. And so far, based on your initial experience, are you happy that you gave it a shot?
Yeah, I'm definitely enjoying it. It's not a perfect game, but I think it's like a step in a good direction for Pokemon, for sure.
Okay. So, I wanted to break down into different categories when we talk about this game. So my own experience so far, just so everybody's aware, is I knew I was gonna get the game. I did get Shining Pearl and Brilliant Diamond, and I did finish those games. I got Sword and Shield, played 5 hours, and just dropped out. With this one in particular, though, I was gonna say, because it was heading in a different direction, and since I was willing to give the other ones a shot, I'm like, okay, obviously I'm gonna get this one. There's no way that I wouldn't. So I decided I got it. I beat the main campaign. I have not finished the Pokédex. I have not finished all the side quests. I do have a fair bit of shiny so far, because shiny hunting in this game is a lot of fun. It's actually less grindy than the previous games are.
Right.
So that is where I am at the moment. But Matt, okay. So I want to divide this conversation into 5 potential topics.
Okay.
Well, like graphics, story,
Okay.
gameplay, and let's start with 3, and then I'll potentially add the other 2.
All right.
But
sounds good.
let's start with the gameplay because that's the main thing that you will do in this game. How are you finding the new loop of the game?
Yeah, I think it's a solid loop. So you go out on an expedition, you gather materials to craft your Pokeballs, craft your healing items, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The crafting I could probably take or leave, but it's not too bad in this game. Like it tends to be like you see a resource, you just like throw one of your Pokemon at it to collect it. So it's like very, very quick, very simple.
Mm-hmm.
In collecting stuff. And yeah, the game, for me at least, like I've kind of avoided battling because I've played a million Pokemon games where you battle, and I don't feel the need to do more of that. So
Yeah, makes sense.
I've mostly just been like doing the sneaking, doing the distracting Pokemon, sneaking up behind him and throwing a Pokeball and all that.
Yeah.
And it's a good like loop to it. It's like very satisfying when
Yes.
you hit them from behind, and it has that like huge effect to indicate that this is like a better
Sneak
chance
attack.
of capturing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, you just like this game really focuses on the collecting aspect of Pokemon, which I think is one of the stronger aspects for me as I get older. I know back in the day I wouldn't catch that many Pokemon, but
Mm-hmm.
we're heading in like a post Pokemon Go world. It feels like they're really sort of trying to emphasize that aspect even more. It was the same with like Let's Go Pikachu Eevee,
Mm-hmm.
where they changed the capturing mechanics and kind of encouraged you to just like constantly be catching new things.
Yeah.
This is that kind of like taken up an extra level. And
Yes.
the other thing I was worried about was like looking at the Pokedex and just seeing like this big checklist of all these things you had to do. But the reality is you only have to do like a few of them. And I've been able to complete like a bunch of Pokedex entries basically just by catching them and not even like looking at what the other tasks are. So
Yeah, because the main task is usually capture this many,
yeah,
capture them while they're sneaking around, which you usually want to do because you
or
want to
like
avoid
capture
battle.
them during the day or night, which is
Exactly.
like it'll be a Pokemon that only appears during the day or night. So it's like, well, yeah,
Exactly. So I honestly think for me the Pokédex works really well. I also was kind of been daunted when I saw so many things that you gotta have to complete. Just one entry for one Pokemon. I was like, okay, well, this is
yeah,
not gonna happen. But yeah, things go actually very quickly because capturing Pokemon is so quick and easy that it just kind of happens in the background. The crafting itself for me was okay. It was a bit of a chore at certain times when you run out or you want to do, for
yeah.
example, shiny hunting and you need to have like 50 Pokeballs at the ready because you just want to basically cycle through as many outbreaks as you can.
You just really need to get into the habit of like gathering
Mm-hmm.
materials whenever you see them and not
Exactly.
just ignoring them. Yeah,
Which happened a lot to me. Like I honestly just wanted to get to where the Pokemons are or
fair
to
enough.
the next story point and I always ignore what was right in front of me. But yes, you need to get into the habit of, even if you're riding your mount, being able to get out, drop your ball, capture materials, and keep going.
Yeah, that is like one of the few like flow breakers in the game is that on a lot of the mounts you can't throw Pokeballs.
Yeah, which is unfortunate.
Yeah,
And I know
but
that we're gonna have a lot
getting
of
on and
like,
off the mount is pretty quick, so I'll
yes,
give it
yes,
credit for that.
yeah. And I think there's gonna be some quality of life improvements that they're gonna learn from this game if they make an Arceus style game as a second one for those, which
Yeah,
I don't see what they wouldn't after the formula, how much they praise the formula, the players.
hmm
But Yeah, so talking about the crafting, so the crafting was fine, especially because materials are so readily available that is doesn't be for you, at least for your basic items, for your basic healing and your basic Pokeballs. The materials are
Yeah.
out there for you to get, and they're very easy to do. So
Hmm.
I didn't find that to be that complicated, or not complicated,
Cumbersome.
but
Yeah.
a block in my road, like a block in
Yeah.
my progress. Capturing Pokemon is very simple. The one thing that I'm still trying to figure out myself is the effectiveness of the Pokeballs themselves. Because the way
Yeah.
that this game works is you don't have gym battles. And remember, previously, gym badges were the ones that gave you the ability for Pokemon out of like very high, like higher level Pokemon to obey you, and unlocked you potentially a new TM. But in
Yeah.
this game, what it does is doesn't unlock a new TM for you, or doesn't give you a new TM. But every time that you complete or research a certain number of the Pokédex, you are able to report that and increase your rank if you have enough EXP. And when you increase your rank, you have the ability, you got the same thing, that Pokemon up to this level will obey you, but you also get a new crafting recipe for a new Pokeball. And the new
Hmm.
Pokeball would act in a bit different. Like, I know the main three that I don't want to spoil for anybody, but my concern is, like, as you level up, they're supposed to be more effective. They even tell you, it's like, okay, this is the same style but slightly more effective. The same, for example, the difference between a Pokeball and a
And a
Great
great
Ball.
ball. Yeah.
They both act the same way, but the Great Ball is supposed to be more effective. Honestly, I didn't find that as much as playing now. Now that I'm more grinding since I finished the story and just trying to fill up the Pokédex, I feel like Pokeballs, for the most part, they do the job. And when I use a Great Ball or an Ultra Ball, I maybe have a slightly higher chance, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like unless the one thing that really does help is sneaking through a Pokemon. But if you hit them
Yeah.
straight on with either Great Ball, Pokeball, or Ultra Ball, to me, just didn't feel that much of a difference.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, I don't know, this is the fallacy you always run into with chance-based stuff. Is like technically it could be a significant amount, but your luck is just bad, and it's like
Hmm?
hard to tell.
Yes, it
So
is hard to
I,
tell.
I tend to take the game at its word, but like I don't know. I've heard the same thing from my dad, like playing Pokemon Go, and just like sometimes you catch a legendary on your first ball, sometimes it takes like 20. It's
Hmm.
just it feels arbitrary because there is so much randomness involved in it that you're not going to get consistent results regardless. Um, yeah, it's just kind of in a weird spot, but I don't really know how you fix that
Yeah,
because
it's hard because you're dealing with probabilities, and you're just kind
yeah,
of increasing the probability of it. So it just sucks when you throw an Ultra Ball and you're like, okay, it's supposed to catch it. Like, if I throw an Ultra Ball in the first area where the Pokemon's a very low level, I'm like, this is supposed to be almost guarantee in
yeah,
my mind, because I'm spending a big item on a small level Pokemon, and sometimes it doesn't
yeah.
work, and you're like, wait, what? That's just annoying. But yeah, I understand the main aspect. It just feels weird because the Pokeballs, the only difference that I have is the trajectory that they go, because that's
Yeah.
what the other types of Pokeball allow you to do. They change your arc, how far they go, and I think that's what makes more difference to me, the feel of the throw rather than the probability of catching the Pokemon.
Yeah, and I did want to bring up like I think Pokeballs are a very good example of where they took a existing mechanic and kind of rethought how it would better work in this game
Right.
because you don't really get like the types of Pokeballs that you would get in other games like
Yes.
Dusk Balls, Quick Balls, stuff like that. That it's actually more about like yeah, how you throw them and the mechanics were actually changed to accommodate the change in gameplay and I really like that and one of the things I've been finding is I wish they maybe did that with a few more things in the
Mm,
game. Because there are
yeah.
some other aspects that feel like they're just there because or they're just the way they are because it's always been that way. Like, one example is honestly, the Pokemon like team in general feels kind of weird to me in this game. Like, I really don't feel that connected, and maybe it's because I've been ignoring battling for the most part. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you're just catching so many now, and the fact you can only have 6 with you feels a lot more limiting than I think it did in other games, because I'm going out on an expedition and catching like 20 Pokemon, and then I can only have like 6 on my team at a time, and I'm just
Mm-hmm.
like filling up my boxes with so many. And yeah, like I don't have a solution off the top of my head, but I wish there had been more of like from the ground up, just completely rethink everything about how these games work. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think going forward, if they do continue on this, there will be like opportunities to do that. But yeah, there are definitely a few areas where this game still feels like a beta in a way. Like they're
Mm-hmm.
just kind of testing out this idea, and it's still fun. But
Yeah.
yeah,
At the
I
same
do
time, they
find there are
did.
times when I'm just like wishing for a bit more.
Yeah, no, I get that because yes, they did keep some things very traditional, and when doesn't necessarily made a lot of sense. Like it would have been
Yeah,
cool if you, for example, had your Pokemon readily available, even if you can only have 6 at a time. If you can press pause and swap them, so that you can
yeah.
use them right away instead of going to the main camp and having to swamp them there, it would be maybe
Uh,
a little bit better.
Another
But
thing I thought was weird is like you can enter battles in this game where you're fighting like multiple Pokemon at once.
yes,
And I was just thinking about like I wonder if it would make sense if they gave you the option to like skip a turn in order to send out an additional Pokemon yourself, and if that would be like a good add like another layer of strategy to stuff like this.
yeah,
Maybe
because
make it a bit more interesting,
if you think
because
about it,
it's weird when you're up against like just
yeah,
3 Pokemon by yourself and just getting hammered. And
yeah, and you're like, I have more Pokeballs, you can throw
yeah,
them.
I just feel like I'm at a disadvantage. And yeah, there's no like reason in universe why I can't be using more Pokemon when I'm fighting a trainer who is using 3 Pokemon. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I understand they're trying to add a little bit more challenge to it, but it just becomes
yeah.
annoying when you are in the wild and you want to capture a particular Pokemon, so you enter a battle with it to make sure that you actually catch it, and you
And then
get
there's just 2
three
other
other
things in
people.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, come on. And especially because then the turn order takes forever, so you just kind of want to
Yeah.
deal with it.
Because other than that, like the game tends to be pretty quick, and I think that's
Yes.
like to its benefit, is everything feels a lot faster. But yeah, the battles can still feel really like slow when you if you end up in one with a whole bunch of other Pokemon, and they're just like, yeah, they all have to go through their animations and use their moves, and
But not only their
yeah,
animations, your Pokemon has to face them too. So
yeah, that's
they
the other
and the
thing.
Pokemon turns so slowly sometimes. It's like, it's okay, you don't need to look at them. Just hit me. But yeah, so there's some quality improvements, but I did like the addition of alpha Pokemon in this world, for
Yeah.
example.
Well,
They
okay.
they make it
I,
so that there are Pokemon that are actually rarer or more rare
yeah,
than others, because that's one of the problems that I found with this is capturing Pokemon didn't feel as special anymore just because of how easy it is.
yeah.
Before, if I encounter, for example, a Scyther in the wild, I was like, oh
Yeah.
crap, this is awesome. Let me just capture it, battle it, and it felt like rewarding. Like I got like there was a
Hmm.
lot of effort to capture it, so I got rewarded by having a very special Scyther. In this one, you see it in the wild, you throw a Pokeball, and you get it.
Yeah. And like that's kind of what I mean when I think like they need to I feel like they need to rethink things a bit more, like just because I think you do need that element of capturing being easier and like
Yes.
more immediate and more frequent. But I
Hmm.
think you just need to rethink how some of the other aspects of the game are set up to like better accommodate that shift in focus. But
Hmm.
yeah, for the alpha Pokemon, I do really like them. It does always feel like a big deal when you run into one, and especially when you catch one, and
Yes.
it's like double the level of your other Pokemon.
Your current
But
party.
The one kind of downside to it is I end up feeling like either if I catch one and it's too high level, I feel like, oh, I can't use this. Like it's gonna make the game too easy.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I also feel like, oh, if I'm thinking about like my permanent like end game team, I'm probably just gonna want only alphas
Yes.
at some point, and that just makes it seem like every other Pokemon you catch is pointless in a way.
Hmm.
So yeah, I wonder if like maybe one solution would be there's like a farm on the town and you can like give them some of your Pokemon to do that. And I wonder if like a future game will give your Pokemon more things to do when they aren't in your party, and that'll maybe be a
Right.
reason to like, oh, I gotta catch more of like this type of Pokemon because I need like 3 of them to run this
Yeah.
facility or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Stardew Valley Pokemon, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
There's
mean,
a lot they could do, I think, and I am like really excited to see how they iterate on this for like a new entry.
yeah. And I think that's the main theme of our conversation so far
Yeah.
is we like the direction that it's heading. There's a lot of things that we enjoyed about the game. And there could be improvements to be made, so we're excited to see what they come up with in the next
Yeah.
Arceus style game. Now,
Yeah.
the other thing that I wanted just to mention quickly was the mounts, because you
Okay.
get a certain Pokemons that you are able to ride around to make your traversal a little bit easier. You can either have a ground mount, a water mount, a flying mount that you're able to use basically to get to different areas,
Mhm.
especially because the main theme about the mounts though is that they're locked behind story content. So you're not able to get them all at the same time. You're gonna have to like go through a bunch of the content and basically get mounts one by one.
Mhm.
I personally, I had two trains of thoughts about that. One is, if for me personally, what that encouraged me to do is, okay, I just want to plow through the story to get all the mounts so I can actually fully experience this world without any restraints.
Right.
The other way, but for other people that I've heard is that it's actually really nice that they did that, because you get to a new area, you explore it for a bit, and you find different places that you're like, oh, I can't quite get to it yet. That's okay. I would just go and play through the story, and whenever they get a new mount, they go back to the previous area to see which new places they can reach and find actually new Pokemon, which I find quite nice.
Yeah. I'll give you a third way to look at it is it always feels nice to get somewhere that you feel like you weren't supposed to get to early.
Okay.
um
Like doing the weird deer jump
Yeah,
without having the
Weird Deer can
climbing
like
mount.
jump over some of the rivers if you angle it correctly, and I enjoyed that. I ended up in some area in the second like major zone where everything was like a good 10 levels higher than all the Pokemon I had, and I found a Turtwig, and it
Nice.
was yeah, it felt good. So like for the way I've been playing the game, I've been doing like a lot of exploration. I've been largely ignoring the story content whenever I get to a new area and just like running around and finding as much as I can. So for me and the way like I've been engaging with the game, it works. But I can see how like for other people, depending on how you play, it might not be as good.
Yeah, it's a bit weird. It's just my style of game. When I see
Yeah.
somewhere, it's like I see an island, for example, and I'm like, oh, I wonder what's there, and I'm really literally right in front
Yeah.
of it.
You like don't want to explore until you know that you actually could explore the whole thing.
Exactly. But that's just my
Yeah.
style of play. Like I said, there's different ways of thinking about it. For different people, it's different. That being said, having mounts that you can just summon real quick at any point, it's
Yeah,
actually
I do
really
like
great.
how snappy it is. It's not like every time you summon it, you got to like pull out the flute and watch an animation and then
That,
watch a
yeah,
cutscene of like the Pokemon running up to you and then press a button to get on it. And yeah,
that would
like this
be
could have gone
super
very
annoying.
bad.
Hmm.
But yeah, they worked it out, so
Yeah,
it's
it's
good.
very snappy, and I enjoy
Yeah.
it. Whether the mounts feel good to ride, that's a different question. Like it does its work. The main purpose of it is just to get you from point A to point B. So I think
Faster,
overall
yeah.
it's fine. It's just sometimes it just felt kind of weird writing them. It didn't feel quite right to me, but
Okay.
yeah. Okay. So that it basically kind of covers the story loop, or not the story loop, the gameplay loop.
No, we'll get to the story loop.
Yeah. So now let's get to the story loop. How did you
All
find the
right.
story in this game? Obviously, it's a Pokemon story, so everything that
Yeah.
you have. Let's try to compare it to other Pokemon stories.
Oh, I mean, I guess compared to other Pokemon, I would say even compared to other Pokemon stories, this one feels kind of weak.
Hmm. And why did
And
you say that? Without
I
spoiling.
I think it's just because this one really tries to have a story, or like it tries to focus more on characters and cutscene while still not being any better at that than some of the other games.
Right. I
And it gets very just tiring listening to these characters. Like I just do not care about anyone in this game.
yeah. I mean, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't help for me. The professor in this game is just. I don't understand why he's wearing that hat. Let's just say that. Why are you wearing that hat? And that's the first person that you meet in this game.
Yeah.
So we don't start well there.
So he sets the tone.
He sets the tone, and then you get to meet everybody else, and it's just a drag. First of all, it sets the wrong tone for me because it takes you so long for them to just let you out into the open world.
Yeah.
It's a lot of dialogue, a lot of reading, and for me, since I was streaming it, I was also kind of trying to read it out loud.
Get to the action. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
and try to potentially put some voiceover when I could. I mean, I'm not the best voice actor out there, but I'm just trying to read it
Right.
out loud.
You gotta be entertaining. Yeah.
Exactly. You know what I mean. And the problem in there is that it just made this every single thing take so much longer. And I just wanted to get to the open world. I wanted to do the gameplay loop. I wanted, like, that's the main thing. As soon as, for example, the other example that everybody compares this game to is Breath of the Wild because of the art style and everything and being open world. Breath of the Wild, you wake up, you get out of the ruins in literally like 2 minutes, and you do whatever you want. You don't need to talk to the other person on top of the hill if you don't want to. Just go, do your thing. And even when they're explaining you something. They explain you can go here, here, and here. Takes 5 minutes, go.
Yeah.
And you have and the thing with Breath of the Wild is also that I really liked is that you had your climbing ability from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't have, nothing was locked between story content. Obviously in Breath of the Wild you could upgrade your stamina so you could climb longer, and there will be other things that you could do. You can get your horse and everything like that, and to make traverse a little bit better. But the core things available to you are readily available to you since the start of the game. And it was awesome because it's like, okay, I don't want to listen to somebody talk. I will go and do my things. This game felt quite the opposite, and that's why the story itself kind of started in the wrong foot for me. The main 5 minutes of the game were, I don't want to say interesting because they really weren't, but at least they were setting up for a mystery that you were going to try to solve in this game. And that is on itself is like, okay, that is totally fine. But then characters show up, there's different clans in this game, and the clans are just so cringy sometimes when the way they talk. Because if you don't know, obviously with Gen 4, the main theme is you have Palkia and Dialga, which are the rulers of time and space.
Yeah.
So there you will see a ton of puns about time and space in this game, to the point that you just want to throw up the next time that you hear time or space used in a sentence. So that's the main thing is the characters. The models themselves are actually interesting. I really like some of the designs that they wear.
Except not the professor.
The professor sucks. Like, it just sucks overall as a character, personality, and outfit. It sucks. But there are other people that you meet that their design and the way they show up and their personality sometimes are actually okay. No, I get that. That's a cool thing. But the story overall and the core of the game is just, it was a gate for me to not get my mounts, and it just wasn't enjoyable overall.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. And like I've yet to meet a character that I've felt like I could say is well written or anything. Like you have your rival in this game, and I don't know, they're
Is
just
it really
so
a rival
useless.
though? It's not really a rival. It's more like
Kind of.
an apprentice in a way, because they're just following you around.
Well, they do
praise
fight you,
at
and
points. Yeah.
I don't know. it's it's another one of those things that feels like it's here because this is just the Pokemon way that things are done, and
Yeah.
yeah, you just got to deal with it.
I would say though.
Yeah, the professor sucks. The commander, there's like two commanders, and neither of them really stick out to me much. Like one of them is kind of morbid, which I guess is funny. Like they keep talking about like, oh, if you fail this, I guess we'll just leave you for dead or something.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
okay, that's like somewhat amusing, I guess, but yeah, overall, it's just like there's barely a character to this game, and yeah, the story is doing nothing for me. It's just it's there because a game needs to have a story. Is kind of where I land with it.
I would say though that the set pieces at the end of the story, I'm not gonna spoil them, but those were my favorite parts of the game.
Okay.
Of the story, because they were actually entertaining to watch. The whole plot kind of made sense in some ways. Obviously, a lot of loopholes, but this is just Pokemon overall. But the set pieces, what I watched, they were actually really, really cool. And one thing that we didn't talk about in the gameplay is that there are actually boss battles in this game.
Right.
Which are a bit different than your traditional gym battles that you have, because you do have to use your character, your main
roll.
trainer, to do like I don't want to call it a Souls-like battle, like a traditional boss battle, because you're not actually trying to hurt the thing. You're trying to just avoid attacks, find a window, and just throw things at it.
It does revolve around the throw mechanic, which I think is a good call, because I think that's like that's clearly the thing that kind of ties this whole thing together, is that it is satisfying to like throw Pokeballs and get that effect off them.
Yeah.
So I think like the concept here is nice. It just feels a little undercooked. Like I think there needs to be a bit more to it. Is kind of where I stand with the boss battles.
Yeah, I think so. Especially because they're just not necessarily challenging. I would say the last two though, they actually have some flavor to them. So I enjoyed them. The first three suck.
Yeah, so I've only done the first two at this point, and they were just like pretty brain dead. Like you can kind of just run up to them and spam, and then do a dodge roll whenever they're about to do their move.
Exactly.
And there wasn't much to it.
The last two, I'm not saying that they're very difficult to do, but I even died a few times in both of them. So
nice.
Okay, so that is the story. We won't dive a little bit too much into it. I want to talk about the overall style and the graphics for this particular game. What were your thoughts on the cell shading of this game, the kind of traditional Japanese feudal era style that they were going for, and then overall the graphics of the game?
So I really like how the game looks in the concept art.
Okay.
In practice, it's not terrible. It's not bad. Mostly. Sometimes it is, but for the most part, I think it looks fine. It's just kind of like that knowledge that you're Pokemon. You really should be able to do better. We know that the Switch can do better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like bad enough. I feel it hurts the game, but it's not good enough that it really enhances the game. It's just kind of like they did the bare minimum fine.
Yeah.
That said, there are a few areas. Caves is one where you'll really see it,
Mm,
where the artifacting on your character is just awful. Like,
it's just
so bad.
yeah, just look at your outline while you're in a cave, and you will see. Oh gosh, this is not great. Um,
Yeah.
there are other areas, by the way, by the beach. If you're very close to a body of water,
Yeah, I noticed some by the beach as well, yeah.
yeah, it's not necessarily super great. Also, there's some what I call level of detail problems where usually this is done in different games, but it's not more subtly that it is in this game. When you see a character in the very far, like that are very far away from you, they're usually not the highest quality character, just because it's like they're very far away.
Hmm.
Even if you do the pores or anything in their faces, you're not gonna be able to know that because they're so far away. So they just swap them for a less quality model so that they
Yeah.
can save some resources so that they can actually give you and render everything on the screen in a better way.
Yeah.
But for this game, it is very obvious that they're doing that.
Yeah, whenever you see a Pokemon off flying in the distance at like 3 frames per second, it's
Mm-hmm.
like, ooh,
Yes.
you really notice it.
Yeah, it does. It does take you out just because it's so obvious and so apparent
Yeah,
that it's
just this
happening.
slideshow like bird in the background.
It doesn't help that one of the main Pokemons in this game is Staravia. And
Yeah.
Staravia's main animation is it flaps its wings like crazy. Like very, very fast to stay up in the air.
Hmm.
When you see a Staravia up in the distance, you see the flapping happening at 3 frames per second, and is very, very noticeable.
Hmm.
So, yeah, there's just some polish that I feel. 1 second. My apologies. There's just some polish that is missing from this game. I feel to make the art
And
style what it needed to be.
with Pokemon, it's always hard to tell if that's like just because the games are rushed out,
Mhm.
because Pokemon's gotta hit a lot of deadlines.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just really wish they had like the time they needed to really polish up one of these games and
Mhm.
go all out with it.
Yeah.
Spend some of that crazy Pokemon money.
Yeah, and I think overall that was the case with even when we mentioned that they left some of the design from previous Pokemon games just for the sake of leaving it in, even if it didn't make sense in this new world.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of making those decisions. And overall, this game is heading in the right direction.
Yeah.
It has a lot of different, it does add new and different things. So I enjoy that part. What again, it seems like this is just the first entry on this formula, and what I can say is that I'm excited to see how they keep improving and developing it. I've been playing a lot of it, and it is one of those games that I can just play while I'm doing other things, like I'm watching a show,
Yeah.
or well, mostly watching a show or just sitting around waiting for something. I can go in, capture a few Pokemon, call it a day, and so I just keep improving on the Pokédex. So I really like it for that. And that's why it is my go-to game when I have a few minutes of downtime or I'm watching something and I wanna be grinding out a video game at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that about covers it for Pokemon. Do you want to bring up any of the games that you've been playing, Matt, or should we leave that for a different day?
Let's see.
Anything worth talking about? That's my main question.
maybe I'll give some of them a few more time, but I'll just do a few quick ones that I didn't have too much to say on.
Okay.
So using my Game Pass and always on the lookout for like games to play with friends, we stumbled upon One Piece Pirate Warriors 4 got added. So that's the Dynasty Warriors One Piece game, the latest one. And the game's pretty unremarkable. The one reason I wanted to bring it up is we were just like baffled by how bad the system for online was in this game. The way it works is you can't actually like make a room or like a group or like solidly pair up with one of your friends. You have to go like every level, you have to like reset up the online connection. So you have to either say I'm looking for people or I'm creating, or I'm looking for people or I'm joining. You have to both pick the same map. There's no way to just like pair up with your friends or like invite specific people. You
Okay.
have to both select the same map. You have to just like find your friends group if you're the one searching, which wasn't too hard because no one was playing this game when we were playing. Uh, you have to establish a connection. The player who formed the group watches all the cutscenes before it starts looking for another player for them. And then when the other player joins, then they watch all the cutscenes. So it's like
Okay.
uh, both players have to like watch all the cutscenes, but you don't do it at the same time. So one of you is just like waiting for the other person to progress, and then there's no way to turn off the in-game voice chat. So whenever we did get in a room, because you're constantly like kicked out when a level ends and you have to like reestablish the connection. So if you're trying to play with a friend, it's like we would be on Discord. When we did get into a room together, I'd have to mute and deafen myself so we weren't hearing each other twice. And then when we finished the level, I'd have to go back to Discord, turn it back on so that we could still hear each other. It's just, it's like worse than Nintendo levels.
That's
like,
crazy.
It's so bad.
I mean, to be fair, you could do the opposite. Like, instead of talking in-game, deafen the in-game, and
You can't though. That was the problem. Is
Oh.
we couldn't figure out how to disable the in-game voice chat at all. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Not great at all. That
game,
sounds like a nightmare.
it's fine. It's a Warriors game, but boy, I was just like baffled by.
I was actually surprised that it had multiplayer
online.
because the one Warriors game that I played didn't have multiplayer at all, and that was Hyrule Warriors.
It did. It just only had local multiplayer.
Oh, okay. Okay. I just never tried it.
And that's how the Warriors games typically work. I was surprised that this one had online multiplayer too, but I guess we can tell that they haven't done it much before. And then, just briefly, I'll mention I also played a little bit of Nobody Saves the World.
Okay, me too.
Yeah. Okay. Nice.
Uh-huh.
I played with a friend, and it's a good time. It's kind of like a top-down Zelda-like, where there's a bunch of different forms that you unlock. Like you start with just a rat form that you play as, and then you unlock like a guard and a ranger, and through playing all of these forms, you just unlock more and more things. Like you can be a horse, you can be a slug, and it's neat. The writing wasn't really doing anything for me, but I actually really enjoyed the gameplay.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is from the makers of Guacamelee, which I really enjoyed in the past, and Severed, a game that nobody knows about, but it's actually really fun to play. But this game itself, I really like the gameplay loop that they were going for. Yeah, like you said, it's kind of like a little bit of a roguelike where you can transform into different things, and each time that you transform, they give you a different ability, and you
new
can
abilities, and they give you different like missions that you have to do as this form in order to unlock the new ones, and it feels like a very good loop.
Yes, because it shows you, not necessarily super forces you to play that form, but it like encourages you to play it to get more things, and
and it's just always fun getting like a new form and seeing how it plays compared to the other ones.
And you can upgrade current forms too to unlock new abilities. So
if you're playing multiplayer, you also like kind of test out different combinations as well. See like what forms have good synergy with each other.
Nice. Yeah. To me, I didn't play it multiplayer. I just played it locally, and I have only dived into it a little bit, like 2-3 hours in. But what I have played, the actual gameplay of it seems a lot of fun. The art style, I thought it was not gonna hit with me, but it grows on you, especially when you go through the different dungeons and everything. I think it's a really, really fun game that people should try. But unfortunately, because it came out during an era of just so many games coming out, that I don't know. I hope that it just doesn't go under the radar. I still plan to continue playing it. But again, it will have to see once we get through all of this, because it came out in late January, and everything that was coming out at that point, like we were about to get Pokemon Legends Arceus. We were just talking about, and that one for me took priority.
Right.
And that
Yeah,
also,
I want to play a bit more of this. It's definitely interesting, and yeah, I like it.
it seems also the type of game that takes a lot of hours because it looks very grindy.
Yeah.
So that also doesn't help when when you need a lot of time to actually play this. But it does seem like
Yeah.
it has a lot of charm to it too.
Yeah.
It reminds me, the game that it reminded me of more of is The Binding of Isaac.
Yeah, art style wise at least. And I guess, yeah, kind of the way that some of the abilities play
Mm-hmm.
are similar. But yeah, you said roguelike. It's not really like when I think roguelike, I tend to think like you have to do multiple runs of the game and stuff like
Oh
that.
no,
And
no, that's not what I meant.
that's definitely not like how this game seems to function. It is more like a set, like linear story,
Mm-hmm.
and you just sort of get these abilities along the way.
And unlock
But
dungeons.
yeah, dungeons.
Yeah.
It For dungeons, it does seem like generally more combat focused than puzzle focused.
Yes.
About the most we've encountered for puzzles is like, oh, to go through this hole, you have to like be your rat form because it's small.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's a cool game. I do want to play a bit more of it. And yeah, if you have Game Pass, I think it's definitely worth a look.
Yes, it's
If
definitely available
sounds
for you,
interesting
and
to
it's
you.
co-op. So if you're, we are always talking about how we're missing co-op games to try.
Yeah.
This one is definitely worth your time. All right.
Yeah,
Any
I
other
think
games that
that's
you want to
it for
bring up?
me. I'll save the rest until I played a bit more because
Okay,
I'm still working through them.
sounds good. All right, everybody. Well, that about covers it for this week. Thank you so much for listening to this weekly Chat and Games podcast. Remember that you can catch it on any podcast service, including Spotify, iTunes, and if you hear us there, please leave us a review so we can grow the community all over the web. It really does help us out a lot. And remember that if you like what you hear, you can also like what you see by going up to the YouTube, type in Chat and Games, check out all the other podcasts that we have in there, all the other types of videos. And I will also plug in the It's All Fun and Games Plays channel, which is where we archive all our live stream footage that we do. And we, especially the one that we just completed was Pokemon Legends Arceus. So there will be a playlist there for you if you want to see the journey that we took on that particular game. There's God of War in there as well. And right now we are going and playing through Outer Wilds. When I say we, I mean me. By the way, I mean me.
Yeah.
Come see me. Matt already has a beautiful voice, so he has everything going for him. You can kind of see me now. All right. With I think that's everything that we got for you this week. Unless Matt has anything else to say.
Bye.
This has been Chat and Games. Signing off.